Hey everyone, in this video, I want to talk about how to not successfully do automation and then how to successfully do automation. But before we get into it, I want to let you all know that we have a community. We talk about these sorts of things all the time on our Discord and in our Cortex users group, which is every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. We have right now it's a Zoom call. It'll probably be a Teams call in a couple of weeks. Um, but you're all welcome to join if and when you are able. And of course, on Discord anytime. And we talk about things like this. Also talk about our products, which enable the type of automation that we're about to talk about here, uh, as well as some other things. So let's get right into it. So automation. One of the things that one of the pitfalls that companies, departments, organizations, teams fall into when they want to adopt automation is uh, they look at it kind of without planning. So in the last video on this channel, which I'll link down below, I talked about why you should automate and why typically people talk about saving money or saving time as the main driver for automation, and that's probably not right. Now you might save time and money, uh, but there are many other reasons why you should automate. And you absolutely should automate. But it's really easy to get into a situation where uh, you see your automation just failing. You might label automation as a failure, uh, and it might be a while before you want to go back and try that again. So in this video, I want to talk about how you can set yourself up for success, and ideally have your automation be successful the first time, um, and continue to iterate on that and build on that successful foundation. And that's really what it ends up being is it is an iterative process. And that's kind of part of why I think a lot of organizations kind of fall into a trap as they try to bite off everything and bite off more than they can chew. Um, and of course you can't automate everything. So let's talk about how to actually make automation successful. And the way to do that is start by automating what you do. So a lot of organizations fall into the trap of trying to automate everything, right? Bite off more than they can chew, automate the world. Oh, this automation platform is so powerful that we can link X and Y and Z all together and do all of these different things. And they get bought into, the shiny aspects, the potential, the sky's the limit. But when it comes right down to it, your imagination is only as good as the context that you're working within. And if you try to build something based on the potential, it may not have any grounding in reality. So the way to be successful is actually to kind of take a step back and go a little bit more slowly and a little bit more methodically. I don't want to make it sound like there's like a capability maturity model or anything like that. But some of this might sound familiar to you if you come from the ITIL background, or if you come from an SRE background. A lot of these concepts are very similar, actually, in both frameworks. The idea basically being start with what you do. You do something right now. It may be totally reactive, not proactive in the slightest, but you do something. Um, and it may be triggered by time, it may be triggered by a particular event happening. Whatever your process is, start with what you're doing today. Start where you are. Actually, I think that's one of the main concepts in ITIL, right? Is start where you are. So that's the first part. So just observe what you're doing, understand what you're doing, kind of take a step back and think about what you're actually doing today. Start with what you do. Then start thinking about what it actually is that you do. Start describing the things that you do. And notice I'm not talking about writing any code. I'm not talking about using any automation tools at all yet. I'm just talking about understanding what it is that you do, why it is that you do these certain things. Start to understand the process. Start to understand uh, what the happy path is. Start to understand what it is you do and why you might deviate from that happy path. You know, what are the error conditions? What are the exception cases? Those sorts of things. And then you can start to document, you know, if it wasn't me, a human, doing this thing, what would I actually plug into these places? And perhaps more importantly, where are the dividing lines between areas where it really is beneficial to have automation versus beneficial to have a human component. So on the one side, we have all of the things I talked about in the last video, things like uh, long, tedious processes, error-prone processes, situations where you really need to have consistency and auditability and repeatability and those sorts of things. And on the other side, things where you need an approval, you know, a human to make a decision. Is this something that should proceed? Is this something that should stop in its tracks? Is this something that should go a different way? That might not be something that you can automate. That might need to be an approval or a some sort of human intervention, some sort of, you know, we need to get more information. We need to send an email to the person who needs to provide this input. Um, and you can automate some parts of that, but some of it you can't. And then once you have that, then you can start to build an actual automation in whatever platform you choose. It might be code. It might be, you know, a no code, low code platform. It could be your ITSM platform. It could be, you know, something like Salesforce. You know, all of these different platforms have different levels of automation built into them, and depending on what your needs are, one or more of them might be appropriate. And then at that point, once you have something automated, you're not done. That's not the end of the road. You still need to observe the automation, monitor the automation. Is it achieving the goals that you set out to? Is it creating more problems? Or is it actually, you know, helping you? Is it potentially saving time? Is it reducing errors? Is it actually accomplishing something beyond what the manual process was doing? And then iterate on that. Go back to the beginning and observe, okay, now that we have this automation, what are the things that we're doing that are still manual? How are we reacting to them? What are we doing? And continue to go down that road. And, you know, if you're thinking from an ITIL perspective, you can still think in terms of incident, major incident, problem, change, all those things as you automate these things. You know, maybe it's on a little more granular scale because an incident is, oh no, this automation failed, and you know, it's hopefully a few cases, not the majority of the cases, but you still react to them, understand why they occurred. And this is where it plays into some of the SRE stuff. Um, you know, do a post-mortem on it, understand why a particular situation occurred and what you can do to prevent it from occurring in the future, you know, resolve it now, prevent it from occurring in the future, build that into your automation, continue to iterate on that. Now, why is this all relevant to, you know, what we do here at Synapse Software? Well, we're in the process of releasing a new product called Cortex Mail Monitoring. So it's still the Cortex platform, the Cortex brand, but instead of doing archiving for Sharewell and ServiceNow, it monitors a mailbox. And the reason we chose email is because that is something that is ubiquitous, right? In IT, most organizations have an IT mailbox, an IT help desk mailbox where users can send in, you know, I have a problem, I need to reset my password, or I'm, you know, I'm getting a blue screen of death on my computer. Help, please help. And then it gets routed and sorted, and something happens to it, right? But this isn't just an IT problem. Most departments within an organization have some sort of shared mailbox, especially if they do any sort of service for anyone else in the organization, which is most departments in most companies. Um, so we started with email because, again, email is ubiquitous, and a lot of things, a lot of services get accomplished or triggered by email. Um, and at that point, you can start to think about, if you're not doing any automation at all, you probably have someone who's handling that mailbox. You can start to think about, what do they do when an email comes into that mailbox? What do they do? What is the process? What happens next? What happens after that? And you can start to think about the actual process that this person, or if you do a round robin sort of thing, or if it's whoever has some free time at the moment, whatever your process is, figure out what you do with those emails. And you can start to think about what you might be able to automate from those emails. Maybe you won't be able to automate every single email. You might still have some that just need human intervention. Um, because email is pretty much freeform. Anyone can send anything to an email box. But at the very least, you might be able to, pull a ticket into your ticketing system. You might be able to detect that this particular person is, reporting time off or requesting time off or something like that, and be able to turn it into a time off request, or requesting access to a new site. Their badge has access to the one they visit most of the time, but they're going to a meeting at another site, and they just need access to that building in order to do that meeting. Well, then you can start to figure out, what sorts of things happen in that mailbox and what you do in response to them and what your process is. And you can start to build automations around that. And that's why we built Cortex Mail Monitoring, so that your email could actually be actionable for you instead of just being a long list of incoming requests that someone has to deal with. You can actually start to think strategically about them, and maybe take some of the load off of the manual effort, um, and automate some part of the task. And that's going to be different for every organization, right? The way you handle your departmental mailbox is going to be different from how, even the same department in another company operates with that mailbox. Uh, and of course, we're here to help. We're trying to build this tool to be as flexible as possible, so that, literally, from our perspective, the sky is the limit, because we don't know how your specific company works. We know how our company works, and we're actually starting to use Cortex Mail Monitoring for our own operations. And of course, we're going to build new features as they serve our purposes. But we want to make sure that it works for you all as well. So as you're thinking through your processes, as you're documenting the steps that you go through when you receive an email, if you can't find something in Cortex Mail Monitoring, or if it doesn't exist yet, let us know. We'll build it. And we're happy to work with you to make sure that your processes get implemented. Uh, and we'll be empowering our partners to do the same thing, to help you implement Cortex Mail Monitoring, um, for your organization, to basically tame the wild west of your email inboxes. So with that, I'm going to end the video. Remember, we've got a Discord where we talk about all kinds of stuff like this. And we have the Cortex users group every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.